The man just casually put on an earring, making the underling next to him instantly blush and his heart race. Because this artifact not only completely transforms his appearance, it even causes his body to bizarrely morph into that of a real woman. The reason for doing this is that, having been reborn, have already been targeted at this point. So, to avoid unnecessary trouble,
Altered my physique.
then followed them and infiltrated the tower filled with danger and rewards.
Soon,
Players from other islands also arrived at the first floor of the tower, one after another, since the players who were with me on the central island were persuaded by me to turn back. Players arriving from other islands noticed that the number of people here was much lower than they expected. At this moment, a guy in a Little Red Riding Hood outfit looked at my back, finding it somewhat familiar, and I immediately noticed that.
the guy kept looking in my direction.
Then I got up and walked towards him. Coming up to him, I asked why he kept staring at me, and if there was something he wanted to say.
Just as Little Red Riding Hood asked if we had met somewhere before.
Suddenly, the little blonde guy behind us called out to the two of us.
First,
He asked if the two of us were together, and then invited us to join his team and go together. Just as Little Red Riding Hood was about to say we were not together, patted his shoulder, and decisively accepted the blonde guy's team invitation. Immediately after,
He took the two of us.
to find the rest of his teammates, because people who come here usually have their own teams, which cause their squad to be short of members and unable to enter the dungeon. Every room in the tower has a certain capacity limit, and the higher you go,
The richer? The rewards?
the little blue-haired guy interrupted the blonde guy, saying there was no need to explain in such detail.
just go straight in and kill all the monsters.
And whoever survives gets the rewards. Among everyone present here, probably not many will survive to go higher up. Some people look like they won't last long at all. So stop talking about this meaningless stuff here. After that, we entered the dungeon and began
To slaughter a swarm of ant-like magical beasts.
It is just that their size was thousands of times larger than normal ants. They attacked with mandibles harder than swords, and their numbers were extremely massive.
And right now,
Because I'm wearing the 7 siblings.
Ring, my stats are reduced to half of what they normally are, so I need to test first.
What level my current stats can still achieve?
Thinking this, summoned my dagger and dashed forward with a quick step. First, pushed down the Little Red Riding Hood who was in the way, and then threw the dagger forward. After the dagger accurately hit the monster's lower jaw, retrieved the dagger remotely while leaping up and flying right above its head. At this point, the monster was lying on the ground in pain, trembling nonstop, completely unable to dodge this strike of mine. After the test just now, realized that to take down a monster, not only do I have to rely on weapons, but I even have to attack twice. You must know that when my stats were not reduced, could kill this kind of magical beast barehanded. After I stood up, a girl came over and called me sister, thanking me for saving her and expressing surprise that I could actually use such
Small weapon to kill this giant ant.
Then she asked if I must have visited many islands and seen many strong people. She said she was looking for a very powerful person, someone who not only frequently helps others defeat magical beasts, but also looks incredibly cool holding 2 chain weapons.
Finally.
She asked me if I had seen the person she described, did not answer her.
Question.
Just told her to stop talking nonsense.
Seeing I ignored her, she turned around and asked Little Red Riding Hood next to me if he had seen that person.
supposedly,
When he was on the central island, he took down the Demon King all by himself.
That person's name seems to be Kang Hansu.
Upon hearing her say, my
Name out loud.
My footsteps paused for a moment. Little Red Riding Hood then said he indeed knew me, and that we had technically teamed up at the very beginning. Hearing this left me utterly speechless. Little Red Riding Hood asked her in confusion how she knew me,
The little girl said the news of how strong I am.
Had already spread among the players.
and she again asked Little Red Riding Hood about my whereabouts. Little Red Riding Hood had to say he did not know exactly where I was. However, when he turned to look at me, he thought to himself, how come this woman looks so much like Kang Hansu? Back then, when he heard I was going to face the carnivores alone, he thought I was just bluffing to trick everyone out of their runes. But later he realized that if it had not been for me, definitely more people would have died. After the squad had hunted for a while,
Longer.
the little blue-haired guy started complaining, saying the difficulty here was low. There were too many people, and no good artifacts dropped. They could only get some runes dropped by the ants.
At this time, the blonde guy interrupted him.
Saying there seemed to be a door ahead. It looked like passing through it would settle the rewards for this run, and then they could proceed to the next floor. Just as everyone gathered together and prepared to pass through the portal, the little blue-haired guy suddenly attacked and killed a teammate. He said, if everyone just left like this, the quality of the artifacts would be reduced, because he heard that at the time of settlement, the fewer the people, the higher the rewards obtained. Otherwise, with his level of strength,
why would he?
choose a squad that could not even gather enough members. Saying that, he raised his knife and dropped another teammate.
Now?
The other people here were completely no match for this little blue-haired guy. Basically, no own could last more than 3 moves against him. Seeing him charge right in front of me with his spear, just casually pulled out my dagger. After just own exchange, my dagger was knocked away. Stabbing into the ground behind me, the blue-haired guy even mocked me, saying he thought I was the strongest on here. But it turned out I was so incredibly weak. Seeing the opponent walking towards him,
Little Red Riding Hood
hurriedly shielded the little girl behind him.
However, he did not notice that the little girl
Was quietly putting her hands behind her back, and then quickly pulled out a crossbow. telling Little Red Riding Hood not to move. Soon as she spoke, a short bolt brushed past his face from behind and shot forward. Because all this happened so fast, the blue-haired guy simply had no time to dodge. Once Little Red Riding Hood recovered from the shock,
He turned.
around and started showering the little girl with praise.
It was just that the little girl did not pay attention.
Tow him.
But continued to load short bolts. Only when the crossbow was loaded again and pointed at Little Red Riding Hood did he stop the praise from his mouth.
He felt like he was about to die.
The next second,
As the little girl pulled the
Trigger.
his guess was confirmed. Then the little girl started picking up the runes dropped by everyone on the ground. After picking them up, she summoned a crest and started reporting to the Lord, saying that in room 10 on the first floor, she did not see the guy with the chains, but she had already killed everyone in this room. She finished her report and was about to hang up the call.
Who was to the side?
Slowly stood up again. Only when she hung up and turned around did she notice me. Before she could react,
Me chains.
had already flown right in front of her. First, a quick rap made her lose her freedom of movement, and then I walked up to her, using the dagger to press against her throat, and said,
Why do you look so surprised?
Were not you looking for me all along?
"Little girl?" The girl wanted to break free, but after trying, found it completely impossible. While breaking out in a cold sweat all over, she said she clearly saw me fall down, said my acting skills were pretty decent.
And I advise you not to.
Try to contact your lord to report this.
We'll send your regards to your lord on your behalf.
Saying that, deactivated the effect of the seven siblings earring, revealing my true appearance.
Finally.
Amidst her shocked expression, dagger slowly pierced into her body. Looking at it now, it seems probably every room has had spies planted by that guy. It was just perfect that she helped me collect the runes, saving me the trouble of picking them up on by on.
Let the rune snake eat the runes I did not.
Need. While muttering to myself,
Little brat.
You do not need to be in such a hurry to find me. We will meet very soon.
Here.
If you want to go higher, you must.
Pass through rooms similar to dungeons owned by own.
Once you climb to the top floor,
You will reach
the final destination of the beginner tutorial area,
Right now?
stood in the lobby of the second floor, but did not directly enter the first room, because the artifacts I currently possess are no longer a match for the dungeon's current intensity.
Aside from the growth type ring of Nirmaha.
Clearing dungeons with the other artifacts was highly inefficient.
So now I need to obtain new...
Items to fill the flaw of having colorless artifacts. Next, I need to make good.
of the intelligence from my previous life.
Later, in a room entirely filled with a dense forest, a little elf appeared and began to introduce things as usual.
First.
It welcomed everyone to Treasure Island. Everyone who chose this room has great eyes. This is the largest room among all
The rooms within the Tower Island.
Your task is to eliminate the guardians protecting the treasure, and after obtaining the treasure,
Head to...
the center of the island to exchange it for an artifact,
the treasure hunting time is 2 weeks.
but just that would be too boring. So, to add a bit of fun and pressure for you,
I have specially added extra conditions for you.
that is, only those who successfully use the treasure to exchange for an artifact can leave this room. You can choose to use the treasure to exchange for 50
Artifacts.
allowing everyone to survive, or you can choose to exchange for 10, or even just own, letting only a portion of people survive, but everyone should know the principle that rarity increases value.
Right.
So the fewer artifacts exchanged here, the higher their quality will be, saying that it marked the 128 guardians.
On our maps.
Among these, only Own will drop the treasure upon being killed. Eliminating 128 of them within 2 weeks is quite a difficult task. Decided to first see what kind of plan they would come up with to solve it.
After a bit of commotion.
A little.
Green-haired girl called everyone together.
She proposed dividing everyone into groups of 10, and each group would be responsible for hunting down 2 guardians every day. This way, over 2 weeks, barring any accidents, they could definitely kill all these guardians and find the treasure, regardless of who finds the treasure. They would notify everyone to gather at the center of the island. Upon hearing this, the crowd fell into a commotion again, because squad members would definitely group together. It would be very difficult for these solo players if their teams did not have any relatively strong players. However, after hearing it, felt this strategy was actually quite good. At this moment, a blonde girl poked the brown-haired guy next to her. Understanding her intent, the brown-haired guy stood out and said he agreed with the green-haired girl's proposal.
Moreover,
They had already allocated their 10 people, with a few of them who looked quite strong, stepping forward. They quickly controlled the situation. The others had no choice but to temporarily follow their lead. Soon, everyone began to form their own teams. I know this dungeon is very large, and the guardians are quite scattered. I have to hurry up and make the most of my time.
Thinking this,
Turned and left the crowd, walking alone towards the dense forest, although the blonde girl noticed me and did not understand where I was going alone.
She did not say much.
And my target this time is the fragments hidden here. In my past life, Kang Tae was their owner, and he had carefully told me the related intelligence. That is, after eliminating a guardian, a bead would drop among these beads, apart from Akon glowing bead,
The rest are all ordinary beads.
because everyone only wants the treasure,
They are not interested in the beads at all.
and would even throw them away directly after seeing they are useless. However,
Kang Tae accidentally discovered back then.
that these beads were not ordinary beads. He proudly said it was fortunate that he was.
Extremely smart to have discovered this.
That is, after collecting 32 beads, On could exchange them for a replica of the Philosopher's Stone. Just as he was continuously boasting, Cadian directly burst his bubble, saying it was clearly
Because you were too greedy and reluctant to throw those beads away.
That you got dog shit luck?
although it can't compare to the Philosopher's Stone swallowed by Anne by Arlen. Its attached effects are something I must obtain. Thinking this, First deactivated the earring's disguise effect, because killing these guardians is still quite troublesome. If I used the earring and had my ability suppressed by half, my speed would not be nearly enough, as long as I am a bit careful not to let others discover me.
It will be fine.
This is also the main reason why I want to act alone.
It just so happens a guardian appeared in front of me to let me warm up. After a while, the people in the dense forest heard the little elf's announcement. When the blonde girl heard that 2 guardians had already been killed, she showed a bit of shock, but right now she was in the middle of a fierce battle and could not afford to overthink. After dodging with a flash, she quickly lifted her leg to counterattack, sending that massive monster flying far away with a single kick. Immediately after, an arrow shot over and took its life. Along their way, they had not seen many guardians, but had killed quite a few small mobs instead. The brown-haired guy could not help but sigh that the other team's speed was truly fast. They had actually eliminated 2 already.
Yet the blonde girl had a feeling
That those 2 guardians did not seem to be killed by a certain team. It seemed more like someone was rapidly hunting them alone. Hearing this, the brown-haired guy teased that the words of
or Lord Yuan Che still have credibility.
Che's face instantly turned red,
She pouted and told them not to call her that.
adding that this ability of hers was really annoying. Then she opened the map to take a look and found that the guardian ahead had been killed. Just as she was preparing to head to the next guardian's location, she suddenly sensed a very powerful aura approaching.
Moreover,
She had felt this aura back at the starting point.
meanwhile, not far away, a certain squad
Was preparing to head straight toward the center of the island. The leader explained to his subordinates that the guardians were not the target at all. Even if they really found the treasure,
Successfully.
bringing it to the center of the island would be very difficult. There was not just one or 2 strong fighters in the other groups.
So while everyone else is hunting the guardians,
We are going to secretly grow stronger. There are quite a few small mobs around here too.
As long as we avoid the guardians and continuously
Hunt the mobs.
we can also improve our abilities quite a bit.
Then at the end, we just need to kill that guy who comes over holding the treasure. Even if a few people are missing, the others won't be suspicious. Che and the others hid in the dark and heard that person's conversation clearly. This made her sigh that if more people
Had ideas like this.
things would be troublesome when the time comes and no on goes to hunt the guardians and the treasure can't be found.
Everyone will have to die.
But what she found strange was that the aura she had just sensed did not belong to these people.
right at this moment.
Suddenly appeared. These people were startled by my appearance and asked who I was. Did not answer. Just said I strongly agreed with Che's viewpoint. So in the current situation,
The most
important thing is being able to maintain order. Che looked at me, covered in battle traces, and guessed.
did I really go and kill the guardians alone?
Furthermore, the feeling I gave her was highly unusual. The brown-haired guy drew an arrow, pulled his bow, aiming at me, and asked
why I was secretly approaching them from behind.
Said I just came over to offer a suggestion.
But the brown-haired guy saw that me acting alone was a bit eerie.
So he asked why they should listen to me.
Said having vigilance is not a bad thing, but do not aim it in the wrong direction. The person I'm looking for is not you. But the lord of this squad, saying that, looked at Che in the back and said,
Let that lady come and chat with me.
Since you have the 6th sense ability,
you should be able to see some things clearly when you look at me. After Che heard what I said, some cold sweat unconsciously broke out on her face. She was now certain that I was the dangerous existence she had been sensing since earlier.
moreover,
Almost no on could tell at a glance that she was the squad's lord,
Yep, I was extremely certain.
just as she thought I possessed.
The 6th sense, just like her.
She realized something was not right. She suddenly felt that what was standing in front of her right now was merely a shell, and hidden within this shell was something even more cold-blooded and brutal.
She felt that if that thing inside me wanted to
Kill them?
It would require absolutely zero effort. Seeing her too scared to speak, told her not to be nervous, that I had already said I was just here to make a suggestion. Just as the brown-haired guy was about to continue, speaking to drive me away.
Che hurriedly interrupted him.
Saying she would chat with me.
The brown-haired guy had never seen.
The Zizao, the brown-haired guy had never seen.
The brown-haired guy had never seen his lord as nervous as she was today.
Siazu, his lord, as nervous as she was today.
His lord as nervous as she was today. Che took a step forward and said that with my strength, could totally hunt alone.
So why did I come looking for them?
She also stuttered, saying that even if I was very strong, they would not submit to me. After finishing, she hurriedly and tremblingly hid behind the brown-haired guy, told her everyone has their unspoken difficulties.
Now need someone to act as a vanguard for me.
To handle the current situation,
Che asked if I wanted to eliminate those few people from just now.
but even so,
We have no way to
deal with the remaining 40 or so people, said, you only need to deal with 10 at a time.
That is enough.
Did not tell you to directly subdue everyone all at once.
You need to make full use of your lord's trait.
Start with the weakest organization and gradually expand the number of people in your squad. Besides, I can see that the other squads here
Should not be able to defeat you individually.
As soon as Che heard this proposal,
she went completely numb, because even with this small number of people right now, she was already too lazy to manage them.
But now I actually wanted her to go and increase their numbers again.
Although she really wanted to refuse me.
She was too scared to say out loud how dangerous I looked. The brown-haired guy next to her also knew that his lord had long been complaining about having too many people in the squad, left with no other choice. She finally said they would give it a try.
Right before they left,
Reminded them that I would be watching, having obtained the rare 6th sense in the beginner tutorial area. This little task should not be too difficult for her.
Now,
Can completely focus on eliminating all the guardians and finding that treasure.
then
We'll follow the Exploration King to the next floor.
After Che and her team spent some time continuously recruiting,
Other players
they finally managed to gather all the scattered individuals into their squad. The brown-haired guy came to report that 4 people were showing signs of rejecting the crest.
Yun-Che said that was because they already belonged to a squad.
Let us just tie them up for now.
Seeing how her treatment
Differed from the others, the green-haired girl started complaining. Are you treating us differently just because we belong to another squad? We have not even done anything. And Che cursed inwardly. Do you think I actually enjoy doing this? Originally just wanted to lay low and do nothing, but now I have to run this massive squad. Thinking about this gave her another splitting headache.
suddenly,
Did the voice of that little elf echo around them?
suddenly,
The voice of that little elf echoed around them.
It said, "Congratulations
Everyone,
for finding the treasure."
Now.
bring the treasure over to me to exchange it. This caught Yun-Che completely by surprise, because everyone was currently gathered right here. Who on earth found the treasure? Soon as she spoke, one of her subordinates pulled a glowing bead from under a nearby tree. Seeing this bead, Yun-Che suddenly remembered that I had promised to let them leave easily. After taking the bead, she handed it over to the little elf for verification. After inspecting it, the little elf confirmed the bead was genuine. Then it added, but it seems someone else was the one who actually found it. Hearing this, Yun-Che asked,
So does that mean we do not get the reward?
the little elf told her that was not the case at all. Saying that, it summoned several numbers for her to choose from. Seeing this, the others' hearts leaped into their throats. They prayed endlessly that Yun-Che would choose
The number 50, so that everyone could leave alive.
Yun-Che looked at the numbers.
flashed a wicked smile, and said,
What if I were to choose the number own?
and kill everyone else.
What would happen then?
However, in the very next second,
She still chose 50.
Just as the others were cheering for Yun-Che,
and swearing to follow her to the death, and Che suddenly said, would not doing this be a little too boring? How about we play a survival game?
Now,
Please either end yourselves or go kill each other. Despite being the leader of the squad,
the woman,
issued a chilling command to her own members to end their lives after the rewards were settled.
however,
She was not looking to hoard the loot for herself.
the truth was, she just wanted to live a quiet life.
And had no desire to manage such a large group. But under the immense pressure I placed on her, she reluctantly took control of the situation on my behalf, bringing various experts under her command. Now that the stage was cleared and rewards distributed,
she gave the crowd that final,
Shocking order.
naturally, everyone was stunned when they heard it. They immediately stood up and began to protest because they defied the command of their sovereign. The squad crests on their hands began to vanish. With that, they were no longer considered members of the team, and Yun-Che took the chance to escape quickly with a few of her trusted confidants. Since Yun-Che stabilized the situation and prevented
a total massacre,
the little elf found it quite boring, but even the elf could not break the game rules on a whim. So it simply opened the portal to the next floor. Seeing the exit open,
The crowd
ran toward the portal like madmen. Once little green hair broke free from her restraints,
she hurriedly told her subordinates to contact their sovereign.
she reported that they could have wiped everyone out, but someone suddenly appeared and seized control.
While they were talking,
Was hiding behind a tree, listening to every word of their conversation. Through their subsequent exchange, learned that their sovereign was currently on the 3rd floor.
And it seemed the situation over there was quite dire.
Finally.
They prepared to head out immediately
To the 3rd floor to support their leader. Thought to myself,
Finally.
they have taken the bait. Hurry up and lead me to your sovereign, because the entire 3rd floor is composed of dungeons. It is incredibly vast. As a result, trying to find a specific person there is like looking for a needle in a haystack. In the lessons Cadian gave us before my rebirth, he said that if we failed to catch the Black Sovereign in the tutorial area and let him reach the red zone, then everything we had done would become utterly meaningless. So, we have to block off every path until that guy is forced down the one we have prepared. To achieve this goal, the island of the tower is the perfect choice.
at that time,
Eris stepped forward to add that it might be impossible on the 1st or 2nd floors, but there would be a chance once we reached the 3rd. Because the 3rd floor has hundreds of different spawn points.
once he enters the 3rd floor,
The harsh environment
Will force the sovereigns to seek help from their squad members.
At that point, they will surely recall their scattered subordinates.
That will be the only chance during the tutorial. To catch the Black Sovereign, the 3rd floor mimics the environment of the red zone. Though it is not at the same difficulty level as the real thing,
the monsters are much stronger than anything encountered before.
so I must find a way to locate him there. Kang Tae mentioned that if that guy realized he was being watched, he would immediately go into hiding. We have to take him down in on-go before he disappears.
At that time,
He will likely only take
His inner circle with him toward the red zone.
by following them. We will find him on the 3rd floor. By now,
have already obtained the
replica Philosopher's Stone needed to deal with him.
now,
Just need to follow these confidants to find him.
With that thought, stepped through the portal and onto the 3rd floor.
upon entering.
Broke into a dash toward a specific direction, behind a rock in the distance.
Yun-Che.
And her group slowly revealed themselves. She then gave the order to follow me and see what I was up to. The scene shifts back to the 3rd floor. 2.5 minutes earlier,
The black light. Sovereign shouted.
Gather the scattered members.
he ordered them to use whatever means necessary to assemble on the 3rd floor immediately. The reason for his panic was that, shortly after arriving on the 3rd floor with his team, they were ambushed by a massive swarm of monsters. The number of monsters grew. The team was quickly surrounded and pinned down. These monsters were not only much stronger than those on the 2nd floor, but they were also surging in from all directions. The Black Light Sovereign remarked that this was merely a trial version of the red zone. The cold profile of his face was like a blade drawn from its sheath. His posture as arrogant as an emperor presiding over a battlefield. Just as they caught their breath,
The monsters
launched another assault on the squad. He took the lead,
drawing his blade and lunging
forward to block the strongest beast.
The powerful impact forced him back several steps, and a few beads of cold sweat appeared on his brow.
However,
putting his full weight into a swing, he sliced the monster clean in half. At that moment, a squad member cried out, "Another wave of monsters is coming. We won't be able to hold them off at this rate." The Black Light Sovereign stepped forward and cut him off, telling him to stop speaking such demoralizing words. "If you want to live,
Then give it
everything you have got and follow me."
These are just a few monsters.
These are just a few monsters.
We are not going down in a place like this. Hearing this, the morale of the crowd surged instantly. Their grip on their weapons tightened with newfound strength.
The Black Light Sovereign also
kept telling himself that he could not back down. Among all the squads that entered the tower,
His was the strongest.
he had carved a path through countless others to reach this point.
He believed his calculations could not be wrong.
He had to break through and get out of here. After a period of intense combat, they reached an area where monsters were scarce. They suspected it had something to do with the statue in front of them.
So they drew closer.
The Black Light Sovereign was horrified.
The statue was actually filled with a dense mass of corpses.
Suddenly,
The little elf appeared out of thin air and asked if the statue was not beautiful. Told them to take a very close look. Perhaps they would find a familiar face inside. Anyone who died in the tutorial area
Could be found right here. Hearing those words,
The Black Light Sovereign's heart skipped a beat. Like a madman, he rushed over and leaned against the statue, desperate to see inside.
Almost immediately,
He saw a face he knew all too well.
The next second, his entire body began to tremble uncontrollably. His daughter's name
Xiaojing.
Escaped his lips. Feeling the strength drain from
his body instantly.
he collapsed to his knees. This forced him to remember back to when he was first transported to this world. His daughter lay on the ground, gravely injured, while an incredibly powerful monster loomed behind them. She was crawling on the ground, calling out for her father. But when he tried to go back and save her,
His sovereign at the time issued an order.
"Protect me. Do not go over there."
he was told his duty was to protect the sovereign.
not that useless piece of trash.
He was told they should be honored to die for their sovereign.
In the end,
He could only watch helplessly.
as his daughter died in his arms, standing up, he muttered that if he had known sooner, his daughter was being used as disposable bait to scout the path. He would never have joined that cursed squad. But their sovereign took the chance while the monster was feeding to turn and run before the leader could get far. The Black Light Sovereign lunged forward and drove a dagger into his body.
at that moment,
The sovereign could not understand how he could defy a direct command. The moment the sovereign died, the Black Light Sovereign's own squad crest vanished. He thought, if scum like this can be a
Sovereign.
Then why can't I?
driven by that obsession,
A new sovereign.
crest manifested on his hand. He saw it as a gift and a sign from the heavens.
He had thought his daughter was lost forever.
The only thing keeping him going was the hope of
Finding his son,
who had been missing since the beginning. He never expected to see his daughter again here.
This.
He took it as another sign from God and began to ask the heavens what to do next.
There must be a way to save my daughter.
Right.
the little elf told him to calm down first.
Then explained that those were just
replicas created when they first arrived in this world.
However, their power and memories were identical to the originals.
The condition for rescuing
Them from the statue was simple. Just catch a living person and throw them in as raw material. Hearing that the dead could be brought back, his subordinates also trembled slightly.
A living person was a small price for the current sovereign?
He immediately turned his gaze toward the squad members behind him. He planned to pick the weakest on and throw them in.
Just to have his daughter back by his side.
The little elf saw right through his intentions and added that he could not use his own squad members. That would be far too easy. It said,
Furthermore,
once you leave this place,
you can't come back.
when the Black Light Sovereign heard this,
Condition.
his brow furrowed deeply because he had previously ordered his men to spread out across the rooms to hunt other players. There were very few survivors left in the tower. Frustrated,
He slammed his fist against the statue.
the opportunity was right in front of him.
Yet he could do nothing.
Just then, a member reported that someone had reached the 3rd floor and was intercepting and killing the members who followed. The Black Light Sovereign immediately ordered the intruder caught alive. By now, the entrance was littered with the bodies of squad members. After arriving, stood guard,
There,
continuously killing his men.
to lure him into the open.
Just as I finished the last stone and wiped away the blood, sensed a powerful force approaching from not far away.
Finally,
He is here, thought. Sure enough. Moment later, the Black Light Sovereign arrived with his squad, slowly walking toward me.
The Black Light Sovereign?
Li Kyung, like the Mad Sovereign.
A target I must eliminate in this life.
In my previous life, his crimes were beyond counting. After rescuing his daughter here, he became obsessed with finding his missing son. Eventually, that desperate urge to find his son drove him to a killing spree, turning him into a monster with blood on his hands.
Even though I'm here to kill him.
We'll still save his son.
They drew close.
Deactivated the earring's effect and revealed my true self.
Sung Yi-yeon gasped.
Realizing I was the guy with the chains they had been searching for.
Hearing this,
Li Kyung let out a long, loud laugh. He believed that he could now both eliminate the nuisance who had been hindering him and use my life as the sacrifice to bring back his daughter, knowing he would not be easy to handle. Every muscle in my body tensed up.
The next second,
He lunged at me with his blade, braced myself for the impact, but just as the distance between us closed to a mere inch, he suddenly stopped.
looking at the ground in shock.
Sensing an anomaly beneath our feet, neither of us hesitated. We both leaped backward simultaneously. Immediately,
Right where we had been standing.
Massive worm burst out of the ground.
Li Won-kyung realized that this monster
was not something they could easily handle.
So he prepared to order a retreat.
But before that,
to prevent me
from escaping,
He told Sung Yeon to track me.
before he could finish, told him not to bother. With a flick of my chains, instantly bound the giant worm tight.
leaping up. First, severed its head.
Then worked my way down, slicing its entire body into countless pieces. Landed gracefully on the ground. At this moment, was so cool the tectonic plates should have rattled.
So cool. The polar ice caps should have melted instantly.
And the sea level should have risen just to reflect my image.
Was so cool the galaxy's carbon-based life forms should have flatlined.
Only to be revived by Cupid's Gatling gun. Even time had to take a detour around me, lest it be frozen by my flawless style.
After finishing the show,
Stood up and said,
Now.
"Oh, Owen will interfere with us." Li Won-kyung stared blankly at the scene.
Unable to believe his eyes.
If you won't come to me.
We'll go to you.
With that, lunged forward and charged straight at him.
Now.
He felt that I was nothing, less than an absolute monster. He quickly ordered all members to attack me at once.
On the way,
Stopped to swing my chains. Taking out two immediately,
spinning midair,
kept the chains moving, ensuring no Owen could get close to me.
Li Won-kyung shouted.
The reports.
Said you would not kill anyone? Serenities, he spoke.
On of my
Chains was already flying toward him.
Sung Yeon quickly stepped in.
Drawing her sword to block it. She noted that she had never
Seen me use a skill in battle before.
leading her to judge that I did not possess any decent combat skills.
hearing this,
Li Won-kyung ordered everyone left to attack together.
If I lacked defensive or area of effect,
Skills.
would not be able to handle the pressure.
First,
He directed the members with high speed and dash skills to the front line, but I did not have time for them. Flickered past and kept charging at Li Won-kyung.
Sung Yeon remarked that I was quite agile.
Then dashed to intercept me again. Second later, she raised her sword to charge a strike. Taste this at this range.
saw no way saw no what saw no what soft
Saw. Craig.
So I summoned a dagger into my palm. Our blades clashed. A sharp ring of metal echoed in everyone's ears. The tip of her blade glowed like a red-hot needle. Slowly pressing down against my dagger, her power surged through my arm, like a bolt of lightning, causing the veins and skin on my arm to rupture slightly.
seeing Sung Yeon's attack succeed,
The others pressed in recklessly.
Pulled back my injured hand.
And opened my other palm.
Pulling the scythe from my back, stepped forward and took Owen out.
Then,
Using the momentum
of the chains,
dealt with the two behind me.
as they died,
They dropped runes, quickly sorted through the useless ones, and let the rune snake out to consume them.
Finally.
It spat out the specific runes I needed to absorb. The crowd gasped. He can control monsters.
Li Won-kyung saw me absorbing the runes.
And hurriedly ordered another attack. While I was once again locked in combat with his men, the older woman who always followed him raised her hand and began casting a spell.
immediately.
2 purple magic circles appeared beneath my feet. 2 tentacles shot out and bound my legs.
Sung Yeon saw I was immobilized.
And lunged from above. Sword aimed at my head, had no choice but to raise my chains to deflect the blow. Meanwhile, Standing at the back, Lee Won-kyung began to deliver another rousing speech to his men. He told them to remember the friends and family they had lost.
Only by eliminating people like this
can we honor their spirits.
His squad members really bought into it.
After the speech,
they were full of vigor again. But I could see that only the rank and file were being used as cannon fodder. The stronger members were waiting in the back for an opening. If this continued, stamina would not last through their attrition. Lee Won-kyung watched as I was subjected to relentless waves of attacks, a wicked smile on his lips. After taking out a few more lackeys, prepared to bring this fight to an end. Just as I leaped back to gain distance and charge an attack,
the old woman predicted my
landing spot and released a magic circle ahead of time. But this time, was not going to let her have her way. Infused my dagger with a silent skill from my ring.
The moment I landed,
drove the dagger into the magic circle. Her skill was instantly silenced and dispelled.
Swung my chains again,
slaying the group of men following me. Then, lunged forward again, aiming straight for the old woman. She had been acting panicked, but when she saw me close the distance, her expression shifted into a sinister grin.
You took the bait,
she said. She's serenity as she spoke.
Was ensnared by
magic circle she had planted beforehand. It turned out she knew I would target her, so she had set multiple traps around herself.
Lee Won-kyung saw I was trapped
and slowly drew his greatsword. Having hidden in the rear,
he was finally willing
to step forward and deliver the final blow.
As the blade touched my body,
a crazed smile appeared on his face as he screamed.
Win.
Did not resist and took the full force of the strike. While he was laughing uncontrollably, suddenly reached up and grabbed the back of his blade. Forcefully pulled the sword out of the deep wound in my shoulder. Finally, smiled and asked,
"Did you ever consider that you were the own who fell into a trap?
There are no squad members left to take a hit for you now.
So let us see if you can
dodge my strike at this range."
When he saw the cold light of the
scythe in my hand,
he broke into a cold sweat. The faint scars on my face were streaked with wet sweat, looking like the markings of a wild beast. There was no warmth in my narrowed eyes, only a trace of flickering mockery, like a predator examining prey that had stumbled into a snare. Despite being bound, looked more like a hunter than ever before. Even my breathing carried a sense of ruthlessness, and the danger hidden in my smile was like a fuse ready to blow. Instead of dodging the enemy's broadsword, the man charged forward, letting it strike his shoulder. His reason for doing this was simply to lure the enemy closer, so he could grab the blade with his left hand, while his right hand, wielding a gleaming scythe, aimed straight for the man's heart. But just as the scythe was about to pierce his body, a dagger blocked it.
Yuanjing laughed,
mocking me for being a fool, asking if I really thought he only had own and weapon. In response, asked him the exact same thing.
Did you really think I only had on weapon too?
As soon as I spoke, a short sword materialized in my hand. At such close range, he had no time
to dodge or swing his dagger to parry.
He could only watch helplessly the short blade pierce through his body. He never expected I could be so ruthless. Serenity is to use my own body as bait, clinging to his last breath.
He ordered his men
to swarm me while I was injured. Upon receiving the command,
the mob
launched a suicidal assault against me. However, it only took me 2.5 minutes to slaughter every single own of his subordinates.
Seeing this, he asked me what he did wrong.
And why I always had to get in his way?
Is it just because of that rule you set? That ridiculous rule forbidding the killing of other players. Hearing this, said, "You're saying the exact same thing as in your past life? In the previous timeline, we paid heavy price to hunt him down. Back then, he never realized his mistakes even at death's door.
He believed that in this dog-eat-dog
world,
the weak deserved to die.
He also blamed us hypocrites who claimed to save people for failing to save his daughter and son. That was why he hated this place.
His ultimate goal was to destroy this world.
This time, told him I was not attacking him because he broke my rules. Simply did not have the free time anymore to maintain any kind of order or rules.
All I wanted was to grow stronger
through the runes you guys dropped.
So, you are all merely my stepping stones in my past life? Cadian once told me that to return to the past and save the world,
I had to temporarily set aside my
morals and my merciful heart.
Even if it meant eliminating everyone in the tutorial?
Zone.
Had to gain power rapidly. Otherwise,
we could never defeat the final floor's boss.
This time,
even the usually compassionate Ares chose to remain silent
because she knew that Cadian's method
was the optimal choice right now.
To get stronger.
Hunting other players was necessary.
Back then, Kang Tae even stepped up, telling Ares not to worry and to leave such a major task to him. At this point, Kang Tae had already begun to fantasize about becoming a savior adored by countless girls.
The mage,
Ares,
abruptly punched him to wake him up. Ares abruptly punched him to snap him out of it. In the end,
she still disagreed with sacrificing the pawns to save the king.
Even if we needed to get stronger, we could not do it by wiping out everyone else. Looking wrong.
Kang Tae ran over to
Cadian and asked if he had said something wrong. Just as he claimed no own was more suited to time travel than him, he suddenly noticed the glow of a magic circle nearby. When I walked over, asked them if they had finally reached a conclusion.
Cadian said that the final hidden dungeon
in the tutorial zone had to be cleared, but the runes acquired through normal hunting were far from enough. Therefore, we could take out some people early on during the 3rd floor. We would have to eliminate them sooner or later anyway, so we might as well use them to get stronger. Standing up, Kang Tae said that eliminating those bad guys would let us absorb their runes and gain power.
That way,
we could warm up and be heroes at the same time.
Finally,
Cadian told me not to overthink it.
Just remember Owen thing.
Whoever stands in the way of our goal,
no matter who they are,
just eliminate them directly.
The scene cuts back to the present.
Asked Li Yuanjing.
Did not you always say?
This is a world where the strong prey on the weak.
So what is there to complain about? If I kill you now, just to get stronger.
When I pressed the blade against his neck, he revealed a relieved smile.
He said he originally thought I wanted to play hero.
It turns out this was my true nature. In his final moments,
he asked me that if I ever met his son.
So please look after him. He even told me what his son looked like. However, instantly replied that I had no time for that.
But I added that if my plans went smoothly,
then everyone,
including his son,
would be able to survive.
With that, swung my short blade and ended his life. At this moment,
like someone chosen by time,
stood in this shattered dimensional space, carrying a burden that was both a duty and a shackle.
Yet,
my heart did not feel lonely at all.
The scene shifts to the entrance, where Anche was already growing impatient.
Her subordinate said,
"Why do not we just leave?
What is there to hesitate about?"
But Anche,
relying on her sixth sense
ability,
felt that something must have happened. Her intuition told her she had to go check it out.
But she was also afraid of me.
Just as they were debating, changed my appearance.
Back into a woman and walked out, told them,
"Spared you on purpose."
So did you guard this place well?
Seeing me approach, Anche stood at attention and said,
"Of course."
And we even caught a few guys tailing us. From her reaction,
could tell they really had not seen me.
Transform and slaughter Li Yuanjing's gang earlier.
Otherwise, would have had to eliminate them too. Besides, had already cleaned up the scene. Even if they went there later, they would not find anything. Seeing no signs of suspicion, said, "Until we meet again," and turned to leave. Watching me just walk away. They were more or less bewildered. A lackey was about to suggest heading to
the next room,
but Anche cut him off.
She said to go check up ahead first.
She wanted to know exactly what I had been doing there.
Soon.
They also arrived in front of the cross statue.
Seeing new players arrive,
the fairy materialized and said things were getting interesting. Immediately after, it explained
how to use the statue again.
All you had to do was throw in a living person, not from your own team,
to resurrect someone else.
Meanwhile,
upon arriving at the 4th floor, remove the disguise effect of my earring. The players who were originally scattered across various rooms would now all gather here. And this place was the preparation area of the 4th floor. Coming here meant I was getting closer and closer to my true purpose for coming to Tower Island. This is the real reason I came to the island of the tower. After the apocalypse,
everyone was
frantically gathering materials to build ships because the rule of this stage was that over time, toxic seawater would slowly submerge the entire land.
To survive,
Owen's only option was to
hunt monsters in the forest for materials and finally exchange them with the pixie for a ship to the next zone. But just as people were charging into the jungle with bloodshot eyes, as a regressor, did not have
the slightest intention of leaving just yet.
Early that morning, Mi's subordinate, Shang Zhen, spotted me and rushed over, saying they had already gathered some materials. Told him I had spent some time on the previous floor, dealing with the Black Sovereign,
Li Yuanjing.
Told them to gather enough materials and leave first without waiting for me. Before he left, tossed him my rune snake as well. No longer needed this little guy
to help me convert useless runes.
But it might still be of some use to Shang Zhen. Just as Shang Zhen was preparing to continue the hunt, another group of people arrived on this floor. They mentioned that back at the cross on the previous floor, they had wasted too much time trying to resurrect Li Yuanjing.
Shang Zhen's heart jolted when he heard that name,
since he had just heard me mention it. Enche quickly interrupted the man, telling him to lower his voice.
Soon after,
Li Yuanjing stepped out of the portal. Enche asked if he truly could not remember anything. The resurrected Li Yuanjing seemed to have amnesia, unaware of why he had even come to this place. This gave Yunche a massive headache.
She had originally planned for this seemingly
powerful man to lead the charge and carry them through, but after his revival,
she realized Li Yuanjing
had lost all memories regarding this tower.
Meanwhile,
walked to the outskirts of the forest. Most monsters were concentrated in the center of the prep zone, so I had not encountered any creatures thus far. Although we were inside a tower, where every floor had a different environment, even featuring realistic-looking skies and oceans.
These were merely virtual spaces.
By now, had already reached the boundary of the 4th floor, though the pixie told us the tower only had 4 floors. As a regressor, knew perfectly well that there was a hidden top floor, the 5th floor. That was the location of the dungeon, where the hidden fragments could be obtained. With that thought, swung my weapon at the barrier before me, only to find that a normal attack was ineffective.
So,
utilized the silence skill from the Ring of Nirmaha and infused it into my weapon. This time, successfully carved out a crack, followed up with several more slashes at the fissure, expanding it into a hole large enough for me to pass through. And just like that, stepped outside the tower.
Once I was out.
The crack instantly restored itself to its original state. To reach the 5th floor,
scaling the outside of the tower was the only way.
Before setting off,
checked my status window.
After defeating Li Yuanjing and absorbing his runes,
all my stats had increased by over 40 points.
Magic Blade resistance colorless, 58.7%.
Mana resistance colorless,
58.7%.
I had just reached
the mana resistance threshold of 58.7%.
The bare minimum qualification for the 5th floor. Physical resistance colorless, 58.7%.
Barely qualified.
After reviewing my stats, began the climb. In just a short moment, reached the summit, glanced at the system prompt, and found it was indeed here. However,
in the intel from my past life,
they never specified what would appear in this dungeon. But no matter how powerful the enemy, had to emerge victorious. Drove all the artifacts I had collected into the ground, leaving only my scythe in hand. As the orb of light above emitted an intense golden glow, the system announced it was scanning the intruder's memories to generate a monster based on them. Once the golden light faded,
massive golden dragon appeared.
The moment I saw this beast, my heart skipped a violent beat. It brought back memories of the final battle where humanity was crushed. Back then, Eris saw we could not hold out and immediately contacted me to head for the teleport crystal.
To ensure I could successfully return to the past.
Every human was putting up a desperate final stand. After handing command over to Ambierin, Eris rushed me toward the teleport crystal, but at that moment, was kneeling on the ground.
Holding a woman.
She had taken a fatal blow just to protect me, kept screaming her name, Kirill, but she only gave a faint smile and said,
I am so glad.
Mr.
You're okay?
She told me I could not stop here.
Never imagined I would cross paths.
With Barim's golden dragon again in this place, but this gave me a chance to strike it down, even though the own before me was just
an inferior,
simulated copy.
Its strength was not to be underestimated.
For this,
pulled out 2 items I had prepared. The first was the Sage's Stone I traded for.
Using 32 beads on the second floor.
Though it was not a complete stone, it could barely manage to boost all my rune values to the red tier. The other was the Demon Jade Essence, rewarded for defeating the Demon King. Although its duration was only one day,
The moment I consumed it.
all my stats surged to 99.99%. Every value reached 99.99%.
However,
After own day.
My stats would all plummet to 0.01%.
After using these 2 items,
The energy
inside my body began to explode frantically. The awakening golden dragon sensed my presence and let out a heaven-shaking roar, dashed back first to gain some distance, then applied the silence skill from my ring onto my weapon.
As my personal stats increased.
The power of my skills was also amplified. Preparation complete. Lunged toward it at full speed. Reaching its front, unsheathed my blade, and delivered a heavy strike against its body. Unbelievably. With its immense defense, it only sustained a minor scratch, but the impact shattered the greatsword in my hand. The golden dragon then began condensing energy in its maw. Was all too familiar with this dragon breath in my past life. Kirill died under this very move. The scene now was identical to back then.
except this time.
was not injured.
Kicked off the ground and dodged to the side.
Realized that using ordinary weapons
Would cause very limited damage to it.
Therefore, planned to merge.
Dekarados' justice and judgment into own. Only then could they unleash their true power after applying the ring's second skill.
bleed. Swung the chains.
Wrapping them around its neck several times. As the chains tightened,
They bit deep into its flesh.
while they could pierce its hide.
The cost was sacrificing the weapon's durability.
Moreover, due to the dragon's
high defense stats.
it would not be trapped for long, but only struggled for a few moments before cracks began to appear on the weapon. But I kept pulling,
Refusing to let go.
even if I have to use every weapon.
in my arsenal.
We'll slay it today. The next second,
The pained golden dragon swung its thick tail toward me. With my hands occupied by the chains, could not dodge and had to tank the hit.
The residual force sent me flying over 10 meters.
once I stood up,
Swung the chains again, linking all the surrounding weapons together.
Then,
Hurled them toward the dragon with all my might.
To defend against the barrage,
The golden dragon had to crouch and flap its wings, used this opening to tighten the chains once more, sinking them even deeper.
then,
Launched another assault.
Meanwhile, in the forest of the 4th floor,
Sheng Zhen had just finished hunting a monster.
He, who was in charge of finishing blows,
Ran out.
and said this was the last Kekis in the area.
after extracting the slime sack,
They finally,
Had the last material needed to exchange for a ship.
Yumihi sighed.
Remarking that, it would have been great if I could have joined them. Shang Zhen told her that even if I had not gone elsewhere, it would be hard for me to travel with them. Confused,
Yumihi asked what he meant.
Shang Zhen said that although their growth rate was considered top tier among ordinary people, they were still leagues behind me. Before leaving, Shang Zhen said he needed to bring a few more people. He asked if he had met some friends or acquaintances. Looking at them,
Shang Zhen said,
suppose so.
while I'm not entirely sure yet.
Feel like those people will definitely be useful. After some time had passed,
The toxic water
began spreading into the forest. Nobody player was currently sprinting frantically toward the spawn point. Upon arriving, he found that his
teammates had already boarded and were ready to depart.
but as he tried to run over and join them, his path was blocked by spears thrown from the ship. The man did not understand why they were doing this. The people on the ship mocked him, saying how agile he was to be able to dodge those throws. The man asked why things were different from what was agreed.
did not you say I could board if I helped you gather materials?
But those people replied that since he was not actually a member of their squad, there was no real need to bring him along. They ended by thanking him for all the materials he had collected. Hearing this,
The man was fuming.
he gritted his teeth in rage, but there was absolutely nothing he could do.
He could only turn back into the forest to gather materials again.
However,
He knew clearly that the remaining time was not enough. Just as he was at a loss,
Several cracks
suddenly appeared in the barrier beside him. He turned to see a hand reaching out from thin air. Terrified, he gasped and instinctively held his breath.
Sepsis widened the crack.
And squeezed my way through. Once out, saw that the toxic water had not yet completely flooded the ground. That meant there was still a little time to gather materials. The man saw me and asked who I was,
and how I could walk out of a wall. Chose to ignore him and walked away.
Yet, he persistently followed me, pestering me with questions. Annoyed. Had to tell him that needed to hurry and build a ship and had no time to play around with him. Just as he was saying that own person's
strength was simply not enough.
had already vaulted into the air and dashed forward. Meanwhile, in the forest ahead, a man was sent flying into a tree. Their opponent was a giant crocodile, known as the Galapacoon. Seeing this, the group began to retreat in fear. Arrived just then and said,
If you are
giving up,
Then I won't be polite.
with that, leaped onto the crocodile's head. With just a few simple punches,
Took its life.
the crowd could not believe that a beast, which had withstood their coordinated group attack, was killed by me with bare hands.
The nobody from before finally caught up after the fight.
Did not kill this monster for the materials inside.
Just thought it was in the way.
Still.
Pulled out the parasite, living inside its body first. Seeing how powerful I was,
That group asked if I wanted to go with them.
the man from before heard this and said he could provide materials too, begging them to take him along. The group replied that using this parasite could only build a 20-person ship, so there were no extra spots besides their own. The man was outraged,
insisting that he met me first.
so the parasite should belong to him. Stepped down and tossed the parasite directly to them, stating that I was going to build a ship that could hold 500 people. However, to build such a ship, and needed the core item, the heart of the green Lulu lizard. That material was notoriously difficult to obtain. As the man wondered if I could truly gather
So many materials in such a short time.
turned and told him to inform everyone remaining if they were willing to hand over their materials to help me,
Finish the ship.
would take them all with me. Once the news spread, large crowd gathered at the spawn point. With the materials they currently had, they could not possibly build a ship on their own, so they pinned all their hopes on me. After waiting a while, they suddenly heard a sound coming from nearby. Before they could listen closely,
Massive.
Lizard was tossed over.
standing atop the lizard's corpse, asked them if everyone was here.
Then, let us get ready to move.
The man had been skeptical, but he never expected I could actually
Solo a monster of this caliber.
walked up to the pixie and said, had brought the heart of the green Lulu lizard to exchange for a 500-person ship. The pixie saw there was still a bit of time left and asked if I knew that exchanging for the ship required other materials as well.
Of course.
Replied, then began pulling the rest of the materials out of my dimensional pocket. The crowd stared at my pocket, wondering what kind of treasure it was to be able to hold so many items.
Finally.
After the pixie finished the tally,
Agreed to the exchange.
By now,
the toxic water was starting to reach the spawn area, yet the pixie was still busy congratulating me on collecting so many materials alone. The others were so anxious they were about to burst, telling it to cut the nonsense and give them the ship.
It summoned the vessel.
The pixie remarked that it preferred it when people used to beg for mercy. With that, massive ship appeared before everyone, told them they could all board, but as payment, they had to give me every single material they had on them
To save their lives.
Owen cared about the cost. They tossed me their materials and scrambled onto the ship once everyone was aboard. The pixie told them not to worry about sailing for the first voyage. It would guide us to the destination. It told us to rest.
we would arrive in 3 days.
Furthermore, with serenities, we were now leaving the tutorial zone. It would no longer interfere with us.
Good luck. Next stop is the red zone.
Please do your best to survive.
After the pixie vanished,
Everyone was
immersed in the joy of having survived, while also feeling grateful for my generosity. At that moment, standing alone at the helm, opened my status panel, physical resistance red, 0.01%. Because of the side effects of the Demon Jade essence, all my stat values had plummeted. Every single attribute was down to the minimum. However, had gained the first skill of this life.
Dragon, Demon, Qigong.
In the past.
This was a truly loathsome skill. But for someone like me who can only learn 7 skills, starting with Dragon Demon Qigong is a fantastic beginning. Before I could finish my thought, someone shouted,
Look, what is that?
Following his gaze,
The crowd
discovered a wrecked ship in the distance. The people on that ship had their skin eroded by the toxic sea. The man recognized them as the very group that had abandoned him earlier. Suddenly, a trident shot out from the water, piercing through his body. Then, monsters began to emerge from the depths. Everyone felt the ship beneath them begin to shake violently. Seeing the ship rapidly changing course, the man looked toward the helm. He saw me gripping the wheel, controlling the vessel. They soon realized something was wrong, because the direction I was heading was exactly where the drowning people were. Seeing this, the man asked if I had not seen that the ship over there had been destroyed. If we get attacked on the toxic sea, we are dead. He asked if I could protect everyone if we were attacked. Even if you want to.
You can't.
Right.
The ship will just be destroyed, and we will all die. Why are you going this far, just to save others?
After sailing for a bit, judged it was close enough and turned the wheel to bring the ship to a halt. The man said,
That is right.
we should not pay any attention to people like them. As soon as he finished, a hand gripped the side of the ship. After a great struggle, 2 people finally climbed up.
Seeing them,
The man scrambled back in fear.
The Own who climbed up cursed the man.
Calling him a bastard.
He had heard everything that was just said. Luckily, they had swam for their lives after seeing the ship. He rushed forward and grabbed the man, wanting to throw him into the sea to see how it felt. But just then, throwing knife whistled between the 2 of them. The man was thus spared from the danger. Said,
Stop arguing.
They are coming.
the next second, the hull shook violently. Looking down, they saw the monsters had surrounded us. Knew very well that these creatures were called cursed survivors. They dwelled right at the entrance to the red zone. These things could only survive in the toxic water, and their attack method was simple.
swim under the ship and punch holes in the hull.
Realizing the ship would sink, everyone fell into a panic. Since they could not jump into the toxic sea,
They could only
let those with long-range skills attack. Said,
If they won't come up, we'll go down to find them.
To everyone's shock,
flipped over the railing, and dove into the toxic sea.
They thought that since I jumped in,
empty-handed,
was surely a dead man. But the moment I entered the water, the monsters stopped attacking the ship and swarmed toward me.
Looked at my palm and thought,
S expected?
Dragon. Demon. Qigong. Expels the toxic water from my body, though my stat values are currently very low. Dealing with these things won't be a problem.
Handling these guys will be a piece of cake.